Lunatic Awesome! Escape the age.
Our dilemma, our history, and how hard it will be to create solutions to our dilemma. So I thought with those two understandings of the meaning of the unspeakable in place, I would launch myself into a kind of meandering diatribe, which will go on for a while, and then we'll take a break, and then we'll entertain questions from the floor. So that's the basic, that's the format. I'm sure it's no news here that we are approaching the third millennium, that 1,000 years of Christian civilization is percolating to its end, that we are on the brink of some kind of turning in the cosmic machinery. And though historians think of history as an endlessly fluctuating and trendlessly fluctuating process, in fact, I think for anyone with half an eye, it's clear that history is some kind of self-consuming process that occurs in geological and biological time in a kind of instant. It is not something that can be built into the life of a planet for endless eons. It's a phased transition, and it has the character of creating ever-expanding adaptive effectiveness for the species that practices it, usually through technology. But this adaptive effectiveness ultimately becomes toxic, no longer serves the endless expansion of population, the endless subduing of nature becomes counterproductive. And at that point, the feedback signals from the process of global civilization become signals indicating danger and time to shift to another gear, time to change the paradigm by which the society has directed itself. And Western civilization, through technological success, has become the dominant global civilization. So unlike the rise and fall of the Maya, which occurred in a kind of cultural and historical vacuum, our civilization touches everyone on this planet. We're involved in a species-wide crisis, and it's a crisis of adaptation and intelligence. If we can meet the crisis, if we can redesign the cultural machinery so that it can glide into the new value system that a limited Earth and an electronically activated population demand, then we can use the crisis as a stepping stone to further exploration of the universe, further evolution, further unfoldment. If we can't meet the challenge, then the fossil record makes clear that there is a place and a plan for those who can't cut the mustard. 95% of all species that have ever lived on this planet are extinct. Nature is an engine for the production of extinct species. And if we are to evade that fate, then we have to rise to the challenge that our history deposits in our laps, because we have been practicing maladaptive technologies, maladaptive ideologies for about 12,000 years now. Well, this is not news to anybody. This just sets the stage. My perspective on this is a little different from many futurists or planners or people who grapple with this, because I believe that the answer to this dilemma and the answer to the contradictions that history confronts us with is a deeper exploration of the psychedelic experience. And the psychedelic experience is something incredibly alien to the Western mind. It is in fact taboo. It is in fact one of these unspeakable subjects promised in the lecture title. It's possible to go from birth to the grave without ever having a psychedelic experience. It's not built into your biology the way orgasm or sleep or hunger or something like that is. It's a physiological option that involves forming a symbiotic relationship with a plant, or post-high technology, with a substance either derived from a plant or probably structurally related to substances within plants. Consciousness appears to be, on one level, a materialistic phenomenon, in that it springs from the physical brain. It springs from the electrochemical processes that go on within organism. On another level, consciousness and the psychedelic experience seem to be a kind of angelic descent into the domain of matter, a kind of iridescence from another dimension that infuses materiality. This is a great paradox, and it's a paradox that persists right down to the molecular level. Psychopharmacologists know, for example, that by shifting a single atom on the ring structure of a chemically active molecule, it can be changed from being extremely psychoactive to being completely inert. Now, if this is not a proof that consciousness springs from the quantum mechanical level, I don't know what would be. So what that means then, to me, is that matter itself has what Alfred North Whitehead called an appetition for completion. Everything in the universe strives to transcend itself. Everything in the universe has what Whitehead called an internal horizon of transcendence. And in the human organism, this internal transcendent horizon within historical times has been frustrated by ideologies, has been channeled in negative directions towards such phenomena as urbanism, male kingship, monocultural agriculture, phonetic alphabets, so forth and so on. these cultural institutions, one by one, are the bricks that we have used to build ourselves into an impossible prison. Now, into this situation, about 100 years ago, comes the news that there are Aboriginal people in various parts of the earth who are using plants to journey into invisible dimensions where divination, curing, and apparent violations of natural law are possible. You'll recall that in, I think it was 1888, Louis Lewin, the German pharmacologist, went to, of all places, Cincinnati, and scored 120 pounds of peyote, which he dutifully took back to Berlin and set to work upon, and quickly isolated the active principle, or it was isolated by a colleague of his. That initiated the modern era of psychopharmacology, and quickly harmaline in the 20s, LSD in the 40s, psilocybin and DMT in the 50s, and then more exotic compounds were discovered. But as quickly as they were discovered, they were made illegal and they were professionally stigmatized, so that scientific careers were ruined if people chose to involve themselves in these substances. Well, now here's an interesting paradox. Science, which claims a kind of universal objectivity, which claims a kind of God-given right to probe into all dimensions and domains of nature, actually grew very queasy at the possibility of chemical agents being used to study and elucidate consciousness. And I think that when we analyze this modern institutional reluctance to deal with these compounds, what we uncover is in fact the lost history of the human race and the secret of our transcendent nature, our difference from the rest of animal nature is linked to the psychedelic compounds. And so is our sexuality, and so is our peculiar adaptive intelligence. This is the situation, you see, that we are half angels, half animals, half in the dimension of the rest of nature, and half in a dimension which can barely be described, the dimension of globe-girdling information transfer networks, high technology, the elucidation of the inner structure of stars and atoms. A world created by mind, a world created by the operation of abstraction. And this is the great thing which we do. We take data and